Welcome to Your Anxiety Toolkit. I'm your host, Kimberly Quinlan. This podcast is fueled by three main goals. The first goal is to provide you with some extra tools to help you manage your anxiety. Second goal, to inspire you. Anxiety doesn't get to decide how you live your life. And number three, and I leave the best for last, is to provide you with one big, fat virtual hug. Because experiencing anxiety ain't easy. If that sounds good to you, let's go. Welcome back, everybody. Today we are talking about a topic that I commonly get asked as a clinician. I commonly get asked as an advocate for anxiety online and so forth, which is how to let go of intrusive thoughts. And I think that this is such an interesting question because words matter. For those of you who know me, you're going to know that words really do matter when it comes to managing anxiety. And we have to get it quote unquote right. And when I say right is what I'm really saying is our mindset about anxiety and intrusive thoughts and any emotion really that is uncomfortable, we have to approach it with a degree of skill and effectiveness and wisdom. And my hope is to help you move in that direction. I know you're already on that direction, but hopefully this episode will be really powerful. I'm going to give you a metaphor that I hope really, really helps you. It really helps me. I've talked about it on the podcast before, but I feel like it's important, so I have to talk about it again. So when we talk about this idea of how to let go of intrusive thoughts, we have to ask, what do we mean by that? And so often when people first start seeing me as a clinician or they start seeing my therapists, we have a private practice in Calabasas in California, we commonly will get asked like, okay, I'm here. I'm ready to do the work. Teach me how to let go of intrusive thoughts. And a lot of the beginning stages of treatment is educating on how letting go, meaning just not having them anymore or quickly avoiding them or distracting against that, could actually be what's making your anxiety worse. For those of you who've taken ERP School, which is our online course for OCD, if you're interested, you can go to cbtschool.com to learn more about that course. That's where you can learn how to manage your own OCD. It's an on-demand course. But we talk a lot about understanding that trying to push thoughts away or suppress thoughts, not have them, actually reinforces the problem. Right? And I also want to mention, it makes total sense that your goal is to be able to have the thoughts and have no discomfort related. I just want to have the thoughts and I don't want them to bother me and I just want them to them to create no suffering at all. And I get that. That is a very normal desire to have. But what we want to do here is when we're talking about how to quote unquote let go of intrusive thoughts, what we're really talking about is how can we be skillful in how we respond to them? Because we know, based on science, that we can't control our intrusive thoughts, that often there is mechanisms in the brain that's making it very difficult for you to sort of pump the brakes on thoughts, which is why you're struggling with so many of them and they're happening so repetitively. We know this. So when I first learned about mindfulness, one of the most important metaphors that just shook me to the core. It really changed the way that I learned to deal with thoughts and feelings and sensations, and emotions and urges and all the things, was to think of my thoughts like water in a stream. And that my mind is this stream of water, and it's, you can imagine right as you're thinking this beautiful green banks and there's the river, right? And the stream, and it's flowing in one direction. And what happens for us when we're experiencing our mind is we hit a rock in the stream. And when we hit that rock, we want to imagine that that rock is a metaphor for an intrusive thought. So here you are, you're the water, you're just rolling over all of the banks and meandering back and forth. And then all of a sudden you hit this very sharp, jagged rock. And of course, your reaction is to get jolted and go, oh my goodness, what is this? Why is this here? I'm just trying to get from A to B. And often what we do is when we hit the rock, we make a huge splash. The splash goes everywhere and we're like, wait, what happened? And when we do this, we actually create a lot of sort of pandemonium for ourselves. Now, that's what we do. But if we were to think about a stream, what does the stream water normally do when it hits a rock? It hits the rock, it notices the shape of the rock, and then it gently goes around them. It doesn't stop to go, is this a good rock or a bad rock? How do I feel about this rock? What does this rock mean about me? Why is there a rock here? There shouldn't be a rock here. The water just notices the rock, observes that the rock's here. It doesn't make a huge splash. It doesn't try to go under it. It doesn't try to stay on the left side of the bank and avoid it. It just notices the rock and it goes around it and it moves on. And mindfulness is just that. Mindfulness is observing what shows up from a place of non-judgment, from a place of non-attachment. And what I mean by that is that the water's not attached to what this rock means about them. It doesn't assign value to the rock. It doesn't say this, the river is bad now because we have a jagged rock. Or it doesn't say the river is good because it's a small rock. It just says rock and it goes around it. So mindfulness is also very present, is it notices it. It doesn't stop there and go, okay, I'm going to spend a lot of time solving this rock and I'll get to the end of the river in my own jolly time. It is often being moved by gravity, so it just keeps moving. It doesn't slow down too much for that rock. And that's the way I want you to now practice approaching your intrusive thoughts or your emotions. If you're having other emotions like strong waves of guilt or shame or sadness and whatever it may be, you're going to notice the obstacle or the object, be non-judgmental, not get caught up in a story about what it means about you, that there is a rock in your stream of water. And you're going to go around it as, I was going to say quickly, but that's not actually the right word. You're going to go around it from a place of not gripping to that rock and so forth. Now, here's where the metaphor continues. For those of you who are listening, my guess is in your stream of in your mind, metaphorically, you hit one rock, you go around it, but very, very quickly comes another rock. And then you might practice that and go, okay, all right, I did one. I'm going to notice this rock as well. I'm not going to assign value to it. I'm just going to notice it, be aware of it, be non-judgmental of it, and do my best to go around it without making too big of a splash. And so you do it the second time. But then what happens? Another rock comes. And often what my patients say to me, or on, let's say, like I said to you at the beginning, like followers on Instagram, or you, of course, you listeners of the podcast will say, I get what you're saying. One of the most common questions we get in ERP school, in the portal where people ask questions, is, I get what you're saying, but what happens if they just keep coming and coming and they just don't stop? And that's where I would say again, The stream doesn't get involved in a conversation about what these mean. It just hits the rock and goes around the rock and moves to the next one and the next one and the next one. And it takes one rock at a time. What we often do, and I'm the worst at this, I have to admit, is once we've hit 4, 5, 6 rocks, we then shift our gaze not on the present moment, but we look down the stream and we go, oh my goodness, I see nothing but rocks. This is going to be a bad day, right? Like all I could see is my future is going to contain a lot of rocks. I can see them on the horizon. I give up, which is okay. I want to first really validate you that is a normal human emotion, a normal human instinct to be like, I give up. There's too many rocks. But our job isn't to be looking into the future, trying to solve the many rocks that we're going to face. Because as soon as we do that, we lose our skills, we lose our cool, we lose our motivation, we lose our resilience. Just the same as if we looked up the stream where we've been and we go, oh my gosh, what a terrible day. Like, look how many rocks I hit today. It was nothing but rocks, right? We could get in trouble that way as well. So mindfulness is only paying attention to one rock, metaphorically, at a time. Staying as present as you can. Often people will say to me, well, how do I get rid of rocks? Like, isn't there a way to get rid of rocks? And I love this. So what they're really asking, just in case you lost the metaphor, is they're asking, how do I get rid of intrusive thoughts? How do I get rid of them? And here is where I think the metaphor is really clever. Because when you think of a stream and you think of the rocks in a stream, like the actual stream, we spend a lot of time, our family, rafting. My husband is an amazing rafter, I guess you would say, and my kids love it too. And what I always think is so interesting is when you're in rapids or ripples or riffles, the rocks actually aren't jagged anymore. Often when rocks have been hit by water enough times, the jaggedness of them gets sort of washed away and the rocks become actually quite smooth. And I think it's such an amazing metaphor here for the work that we do, which is when we are mindful, when we are non-judgmental, when we are present, when we don't attach it to what it means about us, the thoughts become less powerful, less painful, less jagged, less sharp, less of an ouch. And that's true in science with actual streams on water and for us in our mind too. Now, it's not uncommon for people to be curious about how long can intrusive thoughts last? Because often when we have them, before we've learned these skills and before we've learned mindfulness, is we have them, and then because we are so averse to them and we're so afraid of them and they're so painful, it can feel like they last for a very, very long time. And that's true, right? They can be so repetitive that it feels like you just don't get a break. But what I have found to be true as a clinician who's watched hundreds of clients practice this is when you start to apply mindfulness, they can be quite fleeting, these intrusive thoughts. They can pass quite quickly. Now, what I'm not saying here, I want to be really honest with you, is what I'm not saying is that they will stop returning. Again, I want to really keep reinforcing because that's not our goal, right? Our goal isn't to say like, how can we get rid of them as fast as we can, or how can we get them to not be here? So I'm not saying that, but I can vouch for this in that when you do practice treating intrusive thoughts like a rock in a stream, they do tend to be less prolonged, Not always. I want to keep saying not always. There will be days where you'll have, lots and lots. There'll be days when you won't. And again, we're going to practice not attributing value or judgment to that. But I have found this to be very true, that when we're really present and we're kind and we are non-judgmental, it can actually reduce the suffering so much. Okay? So that's the metaphor I want you to think about here in regards to how to let go of OCD intrusive thoughts. But I would even go as far as saying this is the same metaphor I would use when talking with patients who have trauma, right? And they're like wanting to know how to let go of their PTSD intrusive thoughts, because some people with PTSD have intrusive thoughts. I would even go as far as saying that this is also, as I've said in the beginning, you can use this skill with any adversity. You could use this skill with sadness. You could use this skill with shame, guilt, fear in general. It could be discomfort of some physical sensation of pain that you're having. And so we can also let go of these intrusive thoughts related to depression. Is noticing a depressive, negative thought, seeing it like a rock in the stream, trying to practice non-judgment around that and moving around it with a sense of kindness and compassion and radical support. And so that's what I would love for you to practice. I've had patients in the past say that they changed the computer screen to a stream just to remind them of that. Or they've left a little sticky note on the side of their desk saying, thoughts are like a rock in a stream or a rock in a river. There are other ways you could imagine this metaphor as well, but this is the one that I really, really resonate. If you want to get creative, you can maybe come up with some other forms, but I find it to be so incredible how nature can really teach us about how to be mindful and manage really, really hard things. So that's it, guys. That's what I wanted to share with you. I hope it was helpful. I know this is not easy, by the way. The whole reason I say it's a beautiful day to do hard things is because this is not easy. This is like hardcore work. And I want you to give yourself a lot of claps and hugs and celebrations and high fives for even, trying this sometimes in the day. Okay? I really do believe that one rock at a time, even though it mightn't seem very significant, it accumulates. And if you have hit, 10s or 20s or 30s or 100s of these rocks, you are on your way. You are doing the work. You are walking the walk. And I really want to celebrate you and honor you for that. Okay? All right, folks, I hope that was helpful. I am sending you so much love. Keep doing the work. I will see you in a week. Well, you'll hear me in a week. I hope you're having a wonderful summer if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. I hope you're having a wonderful winter if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. And I will talk to you soon. Please note that this podcast or any other resources from cbtschool.com should not replace professional mental health care. If you feel you would benefit, please reach out to a provider in your area. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for supporting cbtschool.com.